بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. So today inshallah we will go over the rest of Babul Imama, the chapter on Imama or leading the prayer, and we will then move to the prayer of the sick, Salatul Marid, Babu Salatul Marid. In the previous two sessions on Fiqh, we went over parts of Imama. We talked about the order of priority when it comes to the selection of Imams. We also talked about the people that may not lead the Salah. And also in the last session we talked about Imamat al-Muftarid bil-Mutanaffil wal-Mutanaffil bil-Muftarid, or Itimam al-Muftarid bil-Mutanaffil wal-Mutanaffil bil-Muftarid. Someone praying Fard, praying behind someone who's praying Sunnah, or someone praying Sunnah, praying behind someone who's praying Fard. And if you remember, we said that the majority do not allow the Muftarid to pray behind the Mutanaffil. The majority would not allow the one who is praying Fard to pray behind someone who is praying Nafl. And the one madhab that allowed this is the Shafi'i madhab. The authorized view in the other mazahib is that it is not allowable. And we discussed the proofs on both sides. Keep in mind that we never basically discuss the proofs in an exhausting way. Like we never have a comprehensive, exhausting discussion of the proofs, because if we attempt to do this, we will take about some 27 years to finish fiqh, to finish the entire fiqh. So it is not basically suitable, it's not appropriate. We are not at this level. What we're trying to do is to get a taste of the discussion, what the discussion is about, and the main points. The main points that they raised in the discussion, so that we can familiarize ourselves with the discourse that took place between our fuqaha, and how they arrived at the various conclusions, invariant conclusions that they arrived at. What was the reason behind this? So this is what we're trying to do. Maybe at one point we can take a few points and have this sort of detailed, comprehensive discussion of the proofs on all sides, but as an exercise, just an exercise. Okay, today inshallah we will go over Rass al-Sufuf, or lining up for the prayers. We will go over, when we talk about, we'll talk about praying behind the rows, in front of the Imam, to the left of the Imam, how should women line up, and we will talk about catching the Jama'ah, meaning here catching the reward, or catching the ruling of the Jama'ah, like having caught the prayer in congregation, and catching the rak'ah. And then when we talk, if we finish the chapter of Imamah, and inshallah, hopefully we'll be able to start the prayer of the sick, or Babu Salatul Marid. We will talk about the position in which he will pray or she will pray, and we'll talk about makeup if they were in coma or something, and we will talk about combining the prayers for the sick, and we'll talk about combining the prayers for others as well. So let's start. Imam ibn Qudamah here said, وَإِذَا كَانَ الْمَأْمُومُ وَاحِدًا. Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah ta'ala, in his book al-Umdat, which is his primer in fiqh, in Hanbali Fiqh, said, وَإِذَا كَانَ الْمَأْمُومُ وَاحِدًا وَقَفَ عَنْ يَمِينِ الْإِمَامِ. If there is only one ma'moom, someone being led in the prayer, he should stand on the right side of the Imam. If there is only one ma'moom, he should stand to the right side of the Imam. This is because Abu Dawood reported, this is reported from Jabir, and it's reported from Ibn Abbas and others, when Jabir came and prayed, saw the Prophet ﷺ praying, and he stood to his left. Abu Dawood reports that from Jabir that the Prophet ﷺ took him by the hand and turned him around this way, and made him stand to his right. And then the same hadith of Abu Dawood, Jabir said, and then Jabbar came and stood to the left of the Prophet ﷺ to balance it out. Now he found Jabir standing to his right, he stood to the left of the Prophet ﷺ, so he took them by the hand and pushed them behind, gently, pushed them behind him, so that they are praying behind them. So that is the proper way of joining someone in congregation. The first one that comes to join them, they pray to the right side, as in the hadith of Jabir and hadith of Ibn Abbas as well. And then the second one that comes, they can pray to the left side. It will be valid if the Imam stands in their middle, but it is inferior. The superior way, the Sunnah way, is for them to step back if there is room, and for the person praying on his right side to step back. And you could point to him verbally or by some gesture that you should come, step back. And then they join each other and pray behind the Imam. And that would be the perfect way. If he stood to his left, someone is standing to his right, and someone is standing to his left, and they prayed like this was reported from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud by Al-Qudamah, and it is fine, but it is inferior, because the Sunnah way is for them to stand behind.
Could that be done verbally?
Verbally, yes. He will say, I need someone to step behind or to step back to join the prayer. He will not be talking to him directly, but he will say this. And this is the madhab. If someone joined the congregation and they did not find room in the last row, he will basically talk to them. He will make a verbal sort of gesture or like a bodily gesture, point, sign, give them any sign that will make them understand what he wants. But he could certainly say to them, can someone step back? And then that person should actually step back. One of them should step back in the last row to join him. So it's verbal or bodily gesture in the Hanbali method. So إذا كان المأموم واحد وقف عن يمين الإمام. If there is only one مأموم, he should stand to the right side or on the right side of the Imam. فإن وقف عن يساره أو قدامه أو وحده لم تصح إلا أن تكون امرأة فتقف وحدها خلفه. If he stands to his left or in front of him or alone, it is not valid. Unless it is a woman, then she should stand alone behind him. So if a woman wanted to join a man in congregation, it's understood. Even if she is his wife, she stands behind him, not next to him. So just like even if she is his mother, she stands behind him, not next to him. That is where she lines up for the prayer. Now, he said if he stands alone behind the rows, or if he stands in front of the Imam, or if he stands to his left, in all of these arrangements, his salah is invalid in the Hanbali madhab. That's the authorized view in the madhab. In all of these arrangements, his salah is invalid. What about behind the rows? If he stands behind the rows, his salah is invalid. If he comes in and he, finds everybody lined up and there is no room in the last row, what should he do? Keep in mind that this is a Hanbali peculiarity. If he prays behind the rows, his salah is invalid. But it is not just like a simply Hanbali peculiarity. But it is a Hanbali thing the Hanbali thing is that even if he did not find any room even if he did not find any room in the last row, the Hanbalis will still invalidate his prayer if he prayed alone behind the row, and that would be the Hanbali peculiarity. So what the Hanbalis ask him to do is first go and stand to the right of the Imam. If you cannot find a place to the right of the Imam, then gesture to the people in the last row, verbally or otherwise, to step back and join you and make a row with you behind the last row. They will say it is disliked to grab one of them. They will say it is disliked to grab one of them. The Hanafis and the Shafi'is, they sided with the Malikis in saying, no, the salah is not invalid behind the row, but still the Hanafis and Shafi'is will recommend for you to actually pull someone gently to to step back and make a row with them. The Hanafis and Shafi'is will recommend this for you if you don't find room in the row. The Hanbalis are not. They're saying that this is disliked, that you will not pull, that you will either verbally or by any bodily gesture indicate to them that you want someone to go to step back to join you and make a row, an additional row with you. The Malikis are saying, don't worry about it at all. Pray alone, no problems. It's not disliked. Just pray behind the rows. If you do not find room in the row, in the last row, pray behind, and you will be completely fine. Is that clear? So the Malikis will tell you, don't do anything. Don't touch anybody. Just pray behind the rows, and don't worry about it. The Hanafis and Shafi'is will tell you, your salah will be valid if you pray behind the rows, but it is prescribed for you, it is recommended for you that you gently pull someone to pray, and you could actually just tap on the shoulder, or just anything to make them come back or step back and pray with you. The Hanbalis will say, keep in mind, your salah is invalid behind the rows, so you have to figure out something. Go pray next to the Imam to his right side. If there is no way for you to do that, then you do need to even tell people in the last row, I need someone to step back and pray with me. Or gesture to them, something. And but they'll tell you it is disliked to pull them. But if at the end of the day they're just not being too smart, then you will, because ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. That which is necessary for the fulfillment of an obligation is obligatory. So you will pull them. And then in this case, they will need to follow you. They should follow you. They're required, Hanbali wise, to follow you. I know that there are many. Huh?
If they refuse,
No, you will just look for someone else. But yeah. No 911. We don't want to call.
Sheikh, later Hanbalis went Maliki on this, right?
But that is contemporary and much. Huh? Yes, Ibn Taymiyyah's choice. Yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah's choice. Ibn Taymiyyah's choice, and some Malikis, and a report within the Hanbali madhab is that in the case, that is what I was coming to. So I said that in the case that that there is, okay, in case you have no room whatsoever, in the case that you have some room in the last row and you pray behind, then the Hanbalis will tell you your salah is invalid, and that is basically that is by agreement, as far as I know, within the madhab. But if there is no place in the last row There is a variant report in the madhab, which is this small a, and next to that small a, you could add the small t for Ibn Taymiyyah's choice, and you could add a small m for some Malikis, but not the authorized view of the Maliki madhab. So small a, small m, small t will tell you, in case you don't have room in the last row, you can pray behind and your salah will be valid. Your salah will be valid. So some Malikis decided to basically take a different twist at the authorized view. They're saying, no, we did not mean that you could always pray behind the row and your salah is invalid regardless of the presence of room in the last row or not. We meant if there is no place in the room in the last row, your salah will be valid behind the sufuf. That's some Malikis. But the authorized view and the madhab is that regardless, whether or not there is room, if you prayed alone behind the rows, your salah will still be valid. Your salah will still be valid. If we take a lot of questions, we will have like 2 more sessions on the imamah. So write them down, and then at the end or after the session, we will have 1 hour for questions. Okay, where were we? Okay, are we done with this? Behind the rows, don't do it. If there is room in the last row, really don't do it, because then if there is room in the last row, then the Hanbali position is pretty strong that your salah is invalid, or let's say strong, because Wabisa ibn Ma'bad, it's reported by Abu Dawood from Wabisa ibn Ma'bad that the Prophet ﷺ saw a man pray behind the rows, and he commanded him to repeat the prayer. And this hadith was reported by Ahmad and Tirmidhi, and it was considered reliable by Imam Ahmad. So he commanded the man to repeat the prayer. That means his prayer was invalid. And the Prophet ﷺ added in some narrations, La salata li munfaridin khalf as-saf. There is no prayer, meaning there is no valid prayer for a munfarid, for one who prays alone, khalf as-saf, behind the rows. Therefore, when there is room in the last row, the Hanbali position seems to be strong based on this hadith of Wabisa radiallahu anhu. If there is no room in the last row, then the disagreement is a strong disagreement. And some of the scholars argued on the other side, the non-Hanbali side, that when Abu Bakr joined the prayer, when Abu Bakr came late to the prayer, it was reported by Bukhari that Abu Bakr came late to the prayer, and he made ruku' behind the rows and then walked like this. He wanted to catch the rak'ah. He knows that he wants to catch ruku', to catch the rak'ah. He needs to catch ruku'. So he found them in ruku'. So he made ruku' and kept on walking until he joined the last row. So the scholars on the other side say to the Hanbalis, well, the Prophet did not command Abu Bakr to repeat the prayer. And he started his prayer behind the rows. The Hanbalis will come back and say that he prayed less than 1 rak'ah behind the rows, and that would not invalidate the prayer. We say it is invalid if he prayed 1 rak'ah or more behind the rows. But anyway, you see the points it's clear where they're coming from on both sides. But certainly if there is room in the last row, make sure that you fill that room. Now, he says that if he prayed in front of the Imam, his salah is still invalid. If he prayed in front of the Imam, his salah is also invalid. That is the Hanbali position. Hanbali position is that his salah is invalid. That is not a peculiarity for the Hanbalis. If you pray in front of the Imams, the Jumhur will support that Hanbali position. And that is the Hanafis and Shafa'is will be with the Hanbalis, or the Hanbalis will be with the Hanafis and Shafa'is on this one. So Hanafis, Shafa'is, and Hanbalis will all say, if you pray in front of the Imam, your prayer is invalid. Your prayer is invalid. Now, Malikis will say if you pray in front of the Imam, your prayer is valid. And that is not only if you are forced into it, but also in general. If you pray behind the Imam, your prayer is valid to the Malikis in general. Not the Sunnah, it's counter to, it is not recommended, but when it comes to validity, they will validate it. They will not recommend it for you. They will not encourage you to pray in front of the Imam. They'll just tell you, if you did, and it is not preferable and it's not recommended, but if you did, your salah is valid. That is why in the haram nowadays, they take that position sometimes, right? You see the Imam praying in the back. And it's not a Hanbali position, but it is a Maliki position, and it is also a variant Hanbali position and the choice of Ibn Taymiyyah. In case there is a need for it, in case there is a need, then you have some Malikis, some Hanbalis, including Ibn Taymiyyah, saying if there is a need to pray in front of the Imam, you could pray in front of the Imam, and your salah will be valid. Keep in mind that the authorized Maliki position is that it is always valid regardless of the need. We're not talking about preference. We're talking about validity. It is valid to the Malikis regardless of the need. But some Malikis, some Hanbalis, including Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, chose a middle position, that it is invalid to pray in front of the Imam unless there is a need, then they would validate it. They would validate it. And that is probably the position that they go by in the haram nowadays, because you see sometimes the Imam is praying far away from the Kaaba and people are praying in front of him. Now the third one here is praying to his left. If you pray to the left of the Imam, the Hanbalis will invalidate this as well. If you pray to the left of the Imam, they're pretty strict about this stuff. You pray to the right, and then if you're to pray behind them, but they would still validate praying next to him. But they would not allow you to pray in front of him. They would not allow you to pray alone behind him if you're a man. They would not allow you to pray to his left. You have to pray to his right. They will use Hadith Jabir, where he prayed next to the Prophet ﷺ to his left, and the Prophet turned him around and made him pray on his right. That's what the Hanbalis use. The Jumhur will use Hadith Jabir to counter the Hanbali position and say to them that Jabir started Takbirat al-Ihram to his left, and the Prophet ﷺ grabbed him, and the Prophet did not invalidate the Takbirat al-Ihram, and had it been invalid, Takbirat al-Ihram is the most important part. He would have asked him to repeat the prayer, because he made Takbirat al-Ihram to the left while he was standing to the left of the Prophet ﷺ. The Hanbalis will counter this by saying that this was less than one rak'ah, and the discussion would carry on. Is this disambiguation? Because we are not taking we're not branching off.
So isn't there a rukhsa? For example, if you're in a tight space, or if you're traveling and there's three people, so one stands to the right, one stands to the left.
Yeah, and I said this in the beginning. That is, al-Qamar reported this from Abdullah bin Mas'ud, that he, prayed in the middle. If you stand to the right and the left, even if there is room to stand behind the Imam, they will all validate it all the time. It is valid. If you have someone on his right and someone on his left, we're talking here about one person coming and praying to the left of the Imam. There is no one on the right. One person coming and praying to the left of the Imam without anyone being on the right, that is invalid in the Hanbali madhab. But if there was some person to the right, they will discourage this, but they will validate it. Yes. If it is also disambiguation, because I'm trying as much as I can to finish this.
Again, order of operation, so it's preferable to, so I've seen people, like two people on the right, and then one person on the left, and then
If they all prayed on his right like a train, that will be valid. But it is preferable that you pray right, left, so that he is in the middle, because the sunnah is for him to be in the middle. But if they pray to his right like a train, and he is sort of the farthest point on the left, that would be valid according to the four madhahib. Okay, so we covered behind, in front, to his left. So in this case, if we have a masjid, that has like two floors, and then people are praying on the top level in front of the imam, if there is a need, there is crowdedness, then that will be permissible according to whom? Malikis, a variant in the Hanbali madhab, and Ibn Taymiyyah's choice. It would be permissible. Okay, so then Imam Qudamah rahimahullah said, وإن كانوا جماعة وقفوا خلفه فإن وقفوا عن يمينه أو عن جانبيه صح فإن وقفوا قدامه أو عن يساره لم تصح. If they are a group, now we're not talking about one person praying behind the imam. If they are a group, they should stand behind him. Like we said, the Prophet ﷺ had Jabir and Jabbar, basically push them to the back, or gently push them to the back. If they are a group, they should stand behind him. If they stand to his right or on both sides, it is valid. However, if they stand in front of him or to his left, it is invalid. Their salah is invalid. And this is all clear, right? If they stand in front of him, the salah is invalid. If they stand to the right, the salah is invalid. When is the salah valid? If you stand in front of the imam according to the Hanbali madhab, if the imam was a woman. Like we said last time, the man will stand in front of her and hear her voice prompts, and follow her this way. The earlier Hanbalis, not the latter Hanbalis, keep in mind, the authorized view in the Hanbali madhab is that women cannot be imams. But the earlier Hanbalis, the majority of the earlier Hanbalis, which are greater Hanbalis in anyway, so the majority of the earlier Hanbalis are the ones who said that it is permissible for a woman to lead the people in prayer, the ummis, if they don't know how to recite al-Fatiha well, and she does, she can lead them in prayer, particularly in Taraweeh. In this case, they must pray in front of her, not behind her. And that would be the exception. Then Imam Qudamah said, وَإِنْ صَلَّتْ امْرَأَةٌ بِنِسَاءٍ قَامَتْ مَعَهُنَّ فِي الصَّفِّ وَسَطَهُنَّ. If a woman leads other women in prayer, she should stand between them in the same row, like Salama and Aisha did. And this is the hadith, that the Hanbalis used to say that a woman could lead other women in prayer. A woman can lead other women in prayer. And that is the Shafi'i madhab also, and the Hanafi say it is disliked, but they would validate it. It's only the Malikis that contest that position. The Hanbalis use Aisha and Salama's imamat of other women as a proof on their position. But in these hadith that are reported from Salama and Aisha, it was also said that they stood in the middle of the row. وكذلك إمام الرجال العراة يقوم وسطهم. Likewise, the imam of men who are not properly covered should stand among them or in their middle. So the imam of the men who are not properly covered will stand amidst them, just like women line up. Which, it tells you that, it is all about propriety. It is all about modesty. So then he said, وَإِنْ اجْتَمَعَ رِجَالٌ وَصِبْيَانٌ وَخُنَاثَ وَنِسَاء قُدِّمَ الرِّجَالُ ثُمَّ الصِّبْيَانُ ثُمَّ الخُنَاثَ ثُمَّ النِّسَاء. If there are men, boys, intersex persons used to be called hermaphrodites. We're talking about people who have ambiguity in their external genitalia. That is what this, discussion is about, Al-Khuntha is different from al-Mukhannath. Al-Mukhannath is the one who has a behavioral, it is a behavioral issue. Al-Khuntha is someone who has a medical issue, not a behavioral issue. So here he's talking about intersex persons in the sense of having ambiguity in the external genitalia. That's the Khuntha, not the Mukhannath. So the plural of this would be the Khunatha. Intersex persons. They used to be called hermaphrodites. True hermaphrodites, the people that can really not be figured out truly, like half-half, is extremely rare. It happens like 1 in 25 million births is true hermaphrodite, who has complete male organs, complete female organs, and that would be no medicine can figure this out. In the past, true and pseudo-hermaphrodites used to be a problem for the scholars because they did not have the means to figure out things. In the present, it's only true hermaphrodites that will be a problem that cannot be figured out medically, whether they belong here or belong there. It is Imam ibn Qudamah, you go back and see how sort of considerate our scholars were, and how sort of verifying and precise they were. So when Imam ibn Qudamah used to be asked about someone whether he should be assigned a male or a female sex, he would go down to asking about their hobbies. He would ask about everything. So not only at the genetic level or the level of internal organs or external genitalia, he would also ask about their hobbies. And if they prefer sewing over, like archery or something, then they would be assigned a female sex versus a male sex. So they relied heavily on behavioral inclinations to assign them a sex. But if they are somewhere in the middle, then they will stand, between, in the middle, yeah. So between the men and the women. So it will be men, then boys, then intersex persons, then women. And keep in mind that, like, sometimes we come across those sort of difficult dilemmas in our masajid where there is some person that the scholars provided solutions for those people. They did not tell them don't ever step your foot inside the masjid, but they provided solutions that will not cause anyone to be uncomfortable, whether it is the males or the females. But the issue of the Sibyan, the issue of the boys, where do the boys line up? The position of the majority of the scholars and authorized view in the four madhab is that the boys will line up behind the men. Al-Mardawi, however, in Al-Insaf, said that in the madhab, Al-Majd ibn Taymiyyah, who is the grandfather of Shaykh Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, the grandfather of the famous Ibn Taymiyyah, Al-Majd ibn Taymiyyah chose that when the boys come early and join the first row, they may not be pushed back, pushed to the back. And Al-Mardawi said that this is the correct position. And Al-Mardawi is not like a small figure in the Hanbali madhab. So he said this in Al-Insaf. This position, Ibn Hajar al-Haytami also, who is Shafi'i, sided with this position. And Majmu' Fatawa Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, he also said that boys should not be pushed to the back if they come early and join the first row. This is I believe strongly in this position. I almost quit praying because I was pushed back to, I don't remember, I may have been 9 or 10 at that time, or 8. But I almost just gave up on the whole thing because it was very disheartening to me because I was really serious about praying, and I felt that I was more serious than some of the adults in the first row, and I came early and I joined. I stood up in line. I didn't, I was very serious about it. And then when they were pushing me back all the time, it just felt so disheartening. And then at one point I had a discussion with my mother, in fact, about it. And I told her, and my mother also, at that time, she was not really particularly comfortable about me going to the masjid, because it's just like, people with beards and stuff. It's just like, that was in the late 70s in Egypt. In the late 70s, it's still very, particularly 81 when they killed Anwar Sadat, the president of Egypt, bearded men, those Islamic groups and stuff. People became a lot more concerned. But anyway, she got the right ilham at the time, or right zawq al-ilham at the time. And she told me, if you're really going to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just don't worry about those people. And if you're really wanting to do this to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just keep on going. Other times she was really uncomfortable about me going to that masjid, but she did not really want me to not pray at the masjid, or to not be involved in this, this world, It was a new thing. The Islamic awakening was still in the very beginnings in Egypt during that time, in the 1970s. But that is why I'm very passionate about this position, because I really went through it. I felt very discouraged. I felt very hurt when I was pushed to the back. So where is this position coming from, pushing them back? I mean, if there is a lot of kids and we want to line them up, and they are okay being lined up behind the men, and when they will not create a lot of noise, and that is fine. Let us do this. But if we have a trickle of kids coming in, and they are joining the first and the second row and so on, trying to pray next to their fathers, or trying to be alone, but just pray, then I don't think that they need to be pushed back. First, Hadith Abu Mas'ud that was reported by Muslim, where the Prophet ﷺ said, let the people of understanding of you, knowledge and understanding among you, pray behind me. Pray behind me, be next to me, pray behind me, to correct me, and if there is a need for correction during the prayer and so on. This hadith is particularly about that part of the row, not the entire first row. It is particularly about that part in the center behind the Imam, where we will have. And some of the scholars also said that this statement of the Prophet ﷺ was not to forbid other people from coming early and being behind and standing behind him. It is to encourage the people of knowledge and understanding to come early so that they can be behind him. Because there are no reserved seats in the masjid. Really no reserved seats. And no one will be pushed. Yes, it was reported authentically from Ubay ibn Ka'b that he found a younger man praying behind the Imam, and he sort of pushed him and took his place. But this is not coming from the Prophet ﷺ. And once again, this is about just that area in the first row, right behind the Imam. Now, the other hadith that is reported by Abu Dawood about the lining up of the men, boys and women, this hadith, as you have in the book, has Shahr ibn Hawshab in the chain, and the people who are interested in the science of hadith, the discussions about Shahr ibn Hawshab, just like it's an endless discussion. But he is not considered to be that reliable for this hadith to be reliable. Now, what else do we have? We have Amr ibn Salama. This is reported by al-Bukhari, leading his people in prayer at age 7. Isn't that true? So if this boy at age 7 led his people in prayer, and this happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and yes, this tribe was farther away from the Prophet, but the Prophet ﷺ would have likely heard about it. People from that tribe would have likely known what should be done in this case. But you have someone like Amr ibn Salama leading his people in prayer when he was 7. If he could be 7 and be the Imam, how come he cannot pray in the first row or the second row? So I am particularly passionate about this opinion. Don't push them to the back unless unless we're talking about like a Sunday school or like and the day will line up. Then you do make them line up behind the rows. You do make all the people that will come from the Sunday school or come from the full-time school line up behind the rows. That would be the proper order. But if there is a trickle of boys coming in and joining the first and the second and third rows, allow them to pray where they basically where they are, wherever they are. Okay, we're done with this. The last thing here in this chapter, وَمَنْ كَبَّرَ قَبْلَ سَلَامِ الْإِمَامِ فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ الْجَمَاعَةَ وَمَنْ أَدْرَكَ الرُّكُوعَ فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ الرَّكْعَةَ وَإِلَّا فَلَا. This is about latecomers. He says, he who makes takbir before the taslim of the imam has caught up with the congregation. He who makes takbir before the taslim of the imam has caught up with the congregation. That is the position of the four madhahib. When it comes to the reward, keep in mind that also according to the four madhahib, he did not catch up in the sense that, let me tell you this. Not the four madhahib. So if someone is a traveler and he prays behind someone who's a resident, and he catches right before taslim, he makes takbir right before taslim, is this person now going to pray 2 rak'ahs? If this is dhuhr, is he going to pray 2 or is he going to pray 4? 4 according to the four madhahib. He is going to pray 4 according to the four. Why? Because he caught up with the congregation before they made taslim. The rules will apply to him. He must finish the prayer as the congregation made it. So if the congregation, if this was the congregation of residents and they prayed 4, he needs to pray 4. That is the four madhahib, okay? Now, next one. If he came in and made takbir before taslim in Jum'ah, will he pray 2 or 4? 4 according to whom? Well, you know that there are so many disagreements in fiqh that you'll always be right, like almost always be right. Okay, but 2 according to whom? Okay, it's according to everybody except the Hanafis. The Hanafis are being peculiar here. That's a Hanafi singularity. So according to the Hanafis, he caught the Jum'ah. He prays 2. He's fine. You're surprised? Yeah, but the Maliki Shafi'is and the Hanbalis, said he did not catch the Jum'ah. Because to catch the Jum'ah, you need to catch 1 rak'ah. So here the Malikis and Shafi'is, and the Hanbalis are saying something different. They're saying if you come before the taslim, you caught the Jama'ah. They will tell you, we meant that he will catch the reward of the Jama'ah. But when it comes to the rulings, no, he did not really catch it in the sense that, he caught the Jum'ah and he will pray only 2 rak'ahs. No, this will count as dhuhr for him. He will need to pray 4 because he did not catch the rak'ah. He did not catch the rak'ah. But where is this coming from? So it is coming from different reports. One report is from Abu Huraira. All of them are from Abu Huraira. Abu Dawood reported from Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man adraka ar-ruku' faqad adraka ar-rak'ah." Whoever catches up with ruku' catches up with the rak'ah. Or, is that, yeah. So that is the hadith. But then there is another hadith that is reported by Bukhari and Muslim from Abu Huraira, where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man adraka rak'atan min as-salah faqad adraka as-salah." Whoever catches up with one rak'ah of the prayer, he would have caught up with the prayer. Add those two hadiths together, then you will find that the variant view in the Hanbali madhab, which was chosen by Ibn Taymiyyah, does actually make sense. They said, and some other scholars from other madhab sided with them, they said, in this variant view of the Hanbali madhab chosen by Ibn Taymiyyah, no, you don't catch anything unless you have caught the ruku'ah. If you did not catch the ruku'ah of the last rak'ah, you did not catch anything. Because you did not catch the rak'ah, you did not catch the jama'ah. Now, so is that clear? That sounds to be clear, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you catch the ruku'ah, you catch the rak'ah. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, if you catch the rak'ah, you catch the salah. So if you did not catch the ruku'ah, you did not catch the rak'ah. And if you did not catch the rak'ah, you did not catch the salah. But that is not the position of the authorized view in the four madhahib. And we said that we don't really steer away from the position of the authorized view of the four madhahib, except if there is a need, stringent criteria that we discussed before and we will not repeat now in the interest of time. So how could we justify to ourselves to take the position of we are taking the agreement of the authorized view in the four madhahib all the time, except at certain times if there is a need with some stringent criteria that we discussed. But how did the four madhahib answer that variant view in the Hanbali madhab, that no, you don't catch anything unless you had caught the rak'ah? How did they answer this? They said that the Prophet ﷺ also said, in this long hadith, إِذَا أَتَيْتُمُ الصَّلَاةَ فَأْتُوهَا وَعَلَيْكُمُ السَّكِينَةُ وَالْوَقَارُ. He said, فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. So when you come late to the prayer, the Prophet ﷺ said, whatever you catch with them, pray with them. Whatever you catch with them, pray with them. فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا. Whatever you catch with them, pray with them. وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. And whatever you miss, make up for it.
So what happened?
This means that, so the scholars said, so he did not say if you catch them before the ruku'. He said whenever you come in, just join them, even if it is right before taslim. And they're saying he would have not told them this, he would have not advised them to join the jama'ah, the first jama'ah, unless they catch the reward, unless there is reward in catching them before the taslim. Otherwise, he would have told them to wait until they can make a second jama'ah. So that is how the authorized view in the four madhahib justifies their position. That for Jum'ah, now they are saying that we will make a distinction between the reward and the ruling. The reward, he will catch the reward if he comes in at any time and makes his takbir before the first taslim of the imam. For Jum'ah, everybody will say he will pray 4, except the Hanafis will say he will pray 2. But the Maliki, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis will say that he will pray 2. And I'm not going to... No, I'm disappointed because I wanted to finish the Salat al-Marid, the prayer of the sick. Anyway.
Keep going. Keep going. We started late.
No, Salat al-Marid will take it's talking about combining the prayers, and we'll get into a lot of discussions about, the other reasons to combine the prayers. It will take a good 1 hour, so let's not, I only have 7 minutes. I wanted to start and just finish half of it or something, but it's not doable. So, another other question?
Yeah, so the ruku' is Rabbana wa lakal hamd. That you call the ruku', right? So Sami Allahu Hamida, and when you go up, Rabbana wa lakal hamd,
Okay. Yeah. No, if the imam did not come up and you join the imam and you have your just the least amount of tuma'nina before the imam comes up, then you caught the ruku'. Yes.
Sheikh, wouldn't the Hanafis have better evidence here because the Prophet ﷺ didn't mention specifically ruku' in the hadith? And he didn't differentiate between salah, it was general salah. And he mentioned jama'ah.
But then, yeah, he said join. So maybe it's maybe like the other the other imams are saying, he catches the reward, but when it comes to the rulings, the other hadith will apply, which is من أدرك الركوع فقد أدرك الركعة من أدرك ركعة من الصلاة فقد أدرك الصلاة. Whoever catches one rak'ah of the salah catches the salah.
Wouldn't they, because the other ones were...
Because what the Hanafis would use is فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. Whatever you catch with them, pray with them, and whatever you miss, make up for it. Does that say that he... Does that say... That's not very clear on him catching the Jum'ah, the ruling of the Jum'ah.
The longer hadith of ruku' is mentioned twice about Fajr and Asr. So you could also make that distinction.
No, because there are variant reports of the hadith من أدرك ركعة من الصلاة فقد أدرك الصلاة. Whoever catches one rak'ah of the salah catches the salah. In addition to من أدرك ركعة من الصبح فقد أدرك الصبح. من أدرك ركعة من العصر قبل أن تغرب الشمس فقد أدرك العصر.
So what's your opinion on Shaykh?
It doesn't, after all of those opinions, what's the worth of my opinion anyway?
Is it safer to pray for?
Huh?
Is it just safer to pray for?
It is safer to pray for, yes. It is safer to pray for. Yeah.
I guess just from my understanding, like we mentioned, if the Musafir joins a
And we will take this ambiguation, in those. I only have 3 minutes to answer questions that are related to this ambiguation, and then we will give 5 minutes for people to leave. When at 10 o'clock, we will give 5 minutes for people to leave. We want to be respectful to people's times. So we will finish this ambiguation in 3 minutes, give 5 minutes for people to leave, and then go have our question and answer session afterwards.